Good evening, everybody. This is Lyrata Barrett for the Institute for Global Transformation. And today, we will continue our lessons on thought, its manifestation. Last time we were together, we were delving into the etheric, and it's the background of everything that is around us, the etheric body, and how the etheric body works, how thought affects emotion, creates manifestation, and how all of that works together. It was a very interesting lesson. If you have not taken time to listen to it, please do. So today we continue, though, in a slightly different way, still working with more so the mental plane or the mental body and thought. Today, we will be discussing or delving into several different things. Today, we'll be looking at how we formulate blueprints of our life and affairs. We'll be looking at, as I said, the mind on the mental plane. We'll be looking at the overshadowing soul on the Buddhic plane. We'll be looking at something I've talked about in the past, because it's perfectly fits here, the rain cloud of knowable things. We'll be looking at how thought forms and personality work together. We'll also be looking at our mental environment, consisting of thoughts from our early childhood development and how they condition us. How we evaluate the experiences from that period of time that set a course in time and space in terms of who we are, what we believe, and how we interact with the world. And we'll be talking about formulating intent or intention into causal thought. So we are determining what's needed to become causal rather than simply reactive in our lives from day to day. As we seek mental polarization, we lift the frequency of the emotional body or the astral aspect of ourselves. We never overstep it or think it's unimportant. Nothing could be further from the truth. We don't leave our emotional body behind as we seek to grow and develop. Instead, what it is we do is we begin to, as with all things, learn that the emotional body has its particular function, a particular purpose that we really have never been taught in life. Except for those rare few who have way showers or parents or guides to teach what the emotional body is truly for. Remember, as we said last session, that the emotional body is the power factor of manifestation. The power factor of manifestation. Think about that. It's the engine of manifestation. So be aware that as we begin to take on more or have a deeper sense of the mental body or mental polarization or mind, that as we begin to gravitate there, navigate ourselves into that realm, looking to be causal rather than reactive, it changes our emotional body because we are no longer going to be, at some point in time, believe it, it will happen, at the pull and tug of the emotional body simply as a reactionary thing. Okay? It's not all about emotion. So and tell you the truth, that's what happens in every aspect of our being as we evolve. Okay? We are still evolving as a species and will be throughout time because humanity's purpose is every human being becoming perfected. Another way of saying every man a Christ. That's our trajectory. So if we look back in time, and I'm going to take a moment to kind of segue backwards a little bit. If we look back in time, because it's important, it's indicative of what happens even when we work on these levels within our being. There was a time when the brain was primarily just the amygdala. Okay? That was it. And then the midbrain came, or don't ask me, I'm not a brain specialist, but I mean, I think it was the midbrain that came, or some aspect of another aspect of the brain came. Okay. And when that came, it automatically began to reshape that original aspect of our initial portion of the brain, the amygdala, because now there's something for it to readjust to. Okay. But then the frontal lobe was developed. We're talking about long periods of time, which also changed the midbrain and also changed its connection. Okay? That's the way we evolve. Okay? So it makes all the sense in the world that as we are called energetically through that in, innate trajectory of humanity to become Christed or perfected spiritual human beings, that the emotional body will change, the mental body will change, the physical etheric body will change. Everything is changing, as we can see on this very day, July 21st. Okay. So we said the etheric body underlies all three bodies, the mental, the astral, and the vital body, or the physical etheric. It's just how we are built. The etheric body is an extremely important body, not to be overlooked. Those nadis, those byways and throughways that connect us to everything, connect us to each other, connects us to our home, connects us to our environment, period, connects us to the divine, connects us to Gaia. Okay. We have plant energy in our body. We have star energy in our body. We have mineral energy in our body. We have consciousness in our body, and everything is conscious. So all of these are connected through the interweaving of this brilliant mapping of the etheric vehicle. Okay? And the mental is that which creates the blueprints, the instructions, so to speak, for that which we seek to build, even though we may not know it. Okay? So one level underlies the mental, astral, and physical, etheric. That's the etheric body. And the mental body creates the blueprints which we build in order to live in this world. Okay? So in this session, we're going to be looking at the source of our thoughts, where thought comes from. So let's begin. And this is a step in gaining control of our thoughts. Okay? So mind is that frequency of matter that is in direct opposition to will or intention or intent. Through the manipulation of will and mind, humanity, as a unit of consciousness within the one life, formulates the blueprints after which our life and affairs are fashioned. So one comes before the other. Here we are more creative than at any other time. For according to our formulation of mental energy into thoughts, and our semblance of thoughts into thought forms, so will our life and affairs go. Okay? The mental plane is closest to the overshadowing spiritual soul on the Buddhic plane. The Buddhic plane is the home plane of the soul. The Buddhic plane is the plane of cause. That's why it's also called the causal body. When we were talking last week about the frequencies that are higher than the emotional body or astral body and mind, we were talking about the Buddhic plane. Those frequencies, to be able to reach that place where we can create thought, one, be causal in our world, creating what it is that's needed, rather than simply being in a place where we react to things, then we're talking about and we are in um, the Buddhic plane or the Buddhic sphere. And what happens is the Buddhic sphere, or within the Buddhic plane, there is something called the consciousness thread, which extends a line of itself into the brain, the physical brain. And by doing so, it is also automatically an aspect, becoming an aspect of the mental, the astral, and the etheric body, which anchors in the brain through that consciousness thread. The consciousness thread is a thread that is known to overshadow the physical body until about the year 2 years old. It is at that time that the consciousness thread, when a child is about 2 years old, begins to connect itself to that child. And the child at that age, we all know, especially those of you who are parents, know that at that time, what happens? The child gathers to itself a sense of, awakens within a sense of realization as to itself as an individual. And that's when it starts saying no. Has its own mind, begins to think for itself. And usually, if parents are on tap with that, if they're aware of what's actually happening, then they can be good stewards and guardians of that child, giving that child the ability to understand its world and begin to understand decision-making process, because the parent can not take over necessarily or usurp power from the child, but explain things to the child so that the child begins to understand pros and cons. If I do this, this is what's going to happen, versus if I do that or that or that, these are the outcomes that can happen. What do I really want to happen? And the parent then can watch the thought process of the child grow, develop over time, giving that child a sense of not only individuality, but inner strength and poise, okay? To be able to stand in its world. It grows because it can make its own decisions. It can do things. It's all of those potentials and opportunities to understand who it is in its world is not taken away. because of helicopter parents. So that consciousness thread is that thread which develops the I consciousness. Okay? And this consciousness thread begins to expand, okay? And it connects it with spiritual energy, spiritual light. It begins to rule more than the physical body. We've said in the past that the soul is consciousness, consciousness is the soul. Consciousness is awareness of being. We also said that the overshadowing soul is that which which is above and free of the form. Soul is above and free of the form. Yes, the soul is identified with the energy of the Christ life. Okay? Christ represents the energy of soul, consciousness, which is where humanity is going as we speak. Okay? We have been in the last solar incarnation, it was the development of the physical body. In this solar incarnation, it is the development of consciousness. That's being, that dominates. It's the predominant focus of this solar incarnation, the development of consciousness. The next solar incarnation will be the development of spirit, will, power. The energy of the heart and soul has to be developed before we can even begin to touch into will. Because will without love we have that available for us to see in this lifetime. Will trying to take over. Will, it's a dictator. It's a demagogue. Someone who believes they're a messiah. Yet has no interest in the people overall. Is self-serving. So the overshadowing soul, consciousness, is that aspect of awareness that is spiritually connected and is focused on the divine. Okay? Our mind, the mind, is overshadowed by a body of consciousness, which is divine in nature. Which means that we have within us the ability to access a level of awareness that, in essence, one could say is beyond what it is we know or think we know. Yet, we're trained, conditioned to believe that that level of awareness is not within our purview, is not available to us. We have within us the ability to access higher mind, divine mind, knowledge and awareness that maybe has not even reached this planet yet. We have that ability, yet we seek outside ourselves everything and anything, as though there's nothing within us. We're constantly like this. Okay? This is where we all, okay? Our eyes, wherever our eyes take us, wherever our mind takes us, but it's always outside of ourselves. When, through meditation, the gift that meditation is, that so many of us run away from, saying, I can't, I can't. And there are some who I get may have a different form of meditation, be it swimming or dance or sewing or singing. Okay? We have to find that which works for ourselves, and we have to be steadfast in finding it. Find that teacher. I'll be offering a class in meditation within the next, this is July, August, September. In September, I'll be offering a class in meditation. If anyone is interested, please let me know. So we seek outwardly because that's what we're trained to do. We seek outwardly for information that we think we need, okay, through study, research, when really so much is available to us if we just go inside and connect. Which leads me to talk about what we discussed in the past, the rain cloud of noble things. This is a Hindu concept, and it's an awareness that beyond us, as we lift our attention upward in frequency, and we begin to be guided or attracted to the energies of truth, divinity, wisdom, so forth, what happens? We magnetize to ourselves a certain frequency of energy, a different level of consciousness. And there's created within the space between the overshadowing soul and the brain an area of light, an area, how do you say it? An area? Yeah, yeah, an area between the overshadowing soul, physical brain, that is known as the rain cloud of knowable things. Every age has a new rain cloud of knowable things, which holds within it the wisdom and knowledge that needs to be learned within that particular age. So we have now access to a brand new rain cloud of knowable things as we are building in this new age, a brand new culture, a brand new civilization, a brand new everything, brand new blueprints. Isn't it timely that we discuss this now? And in the meditation process, as we meditate, we allow ourselves to become receptive to this body of information, this body of wisdom that has never been on this planet before. Rain cloud of knowable things. So, through access to this rain cloud of knowable things, through the meditative process, through our connection to the overshadowing spiritual soul, what happens? We gradually incarnate or build a level of awareness of a deeper level of consciousness. We attract to ourselves access to higher mind. And this process builds over time, solidifies, develops what is known as the conscious soul incarnate, which I usually, when I'm writing it, call it CSI for short, the conscious soul incarnate. So really what's happening is that there's a transference. Think about that. There's a transference of energy because what we're doing is building over time through concerted effort, aspiration to the higher, according to the blueprint of the soul, which one distills through each meditative process. We're building a higher level of being within us. Okay? And what's happening is that there's a transference of wisdom from the Buddhic sphere just above the head center. That's where the Buddhic sphere is. Which is why I said we're going to have to do this in several sessions, because there's a graph that I really want you to see. So here is a chart, very famous chart, well used in our tradition, wisdom teachings, of what they call the 7 planes of the cosmic physical plane. Okay? We have the physical plane, which is where the physical dense, it's called cosmic dense. I've talked about it, I've spoken about this before. You know, we're used to dense, the physical dense, liquid, gaseous, and then we go into fourth ether, third ether, second ether, first ether. Okay? This fourth ether is the realm of the etheric body, or the realm of the etheric. Okay? It shows you how close it is to the physical. Then we have the emotional body, or the astral body. Then we have the mental body, relates to the gaseous. The emotional body relates to cosmic liquid. Physical body relates to cosmic dense. Okay. Buddhic plane, just above the mental plane. Okay. The highest chakra that we have, that is still a persona chakra, is what is known as the crown center, or the head center. That's just below the Buddhic plane, just below. When you're in the head center, which is 3 inches above the head, 3 to 6 inches above the head, you know that you stand below the overshadowing, the home plane of the soul, okay? The overshadowing spiritual soul, the Buddhic plane, the plane of cause, the higher levels of frequency, okay? And then we have, and this is quite interesting too, because this Buddhic plane is what, as you can see, is the 4th plane up. But above it, yet stands 3 planes. 3 planes below, 3 planes above. Okay? Which is an indication that this particular plane, the number 4 is a very key number. This particular plane, it's a doorway, it's a threshold to something else. It's a bridge to something else, always. Okay? The human kingdom is the 4th kingdom. We are a bridgeway between the lower kingdoms and the higher kingdoms. The 5th kingdom is now online, the spiritual kingdom, or the kingdom of conscious souls. Okay? So this Buddhic plane is very key, and the mental plane. This is what we're looking at right now. Okay? These lower planes rule the personality. It's the home plane of it's the home plane of the personality. Buddhic plane, home plane of the soul. And as the personality has 3 centers, mental, astral, physical, etheric, we both say them together, so do the higher planes. And we'll talk about this later. Okay? I just wanted you to see that so you can relate. Sometimes a picture is worth, as they say, 1,000 words. Okay. So our thought forms are constantly impacting us. And our thought forms we can consider to be things like everything. How we nourish ourselves develops our thought forms. Our conditioning develops our thought forms. Okay? What we listen to musically, uh, what we listen, the kind of music we listen to, the kind of news we listen to, um, the kind of friends we have around us. Okay? What it is we watch on TV, what's our level of entertainment? Advertising, huge one, has a huge effect on our thought forms. Our leaders, our spiritual leaders, our political leaders, many times the thought forms from our environment are gravitate around what other people think. Not only of us, but what other people think, period. Okay? So the question really comes up is, can we create our own thoughts? Do we have the ability to do that? Or are we simply victims of mass thought? And that kind of questioning is what it is we should be asking ourselves. Okay? You know where you are in the scheme of things. Are you one that has to run out every time there's a new iPhone or Samsung and buy it? Are you one that has to have the latest footwear? Or are you one who seeks solace in the woods, in nature? Are you one that communes with nature, seeks to place your feet on the bare ground for grounding, hugs a tree, is conscious about what you put into your mouth and what comes out of your mouth? Even more. You know where you are in the spectrum of things. All of these things shapes our destiny. Okay? What is the nature of mental energy? Mental energy is the creative material of the universe. Mental energy is that aspect. It's, again, remember last session, I mentioned that 1/3 of our lives is astral emotional. Well, another third of our lives is mental. Okay? 1/3 of our real environment is made up of the frequency of vibrating matter. We think, as I've said so many times in the past, that this environment, physical dense, is real. It's not real. It's a reflection, as I've said before. That's part of the wisdom teaching. Physical dense is a reflection of higher levels. And that which is outpictured here is never really quite like what's going on the inner levels. Okay? always something different. Our mental environment consists of a lot of different things. Let's go through some of them. And these are number one, several different things. One, that which was our conditioning in childhood, the thought forms we grew up with concerning religion, finance, behaviorisms, sex, family, and the place of family in society, the world in which we live, our own image, and our ego. But the history behind humanity has gone through a lot. We've gone through wars, which have changed us drastically. Our civilization is changing rapidly. We're seeing the demolition of what has always we thought was the status quo. We're seeing the demolition of that. And we're seeing mixing of the races, the integration of people from all over the world. Through religion, through rebellion, through nations that are coming together or falling apart, okay? Yes, we are constantly changing. We're constantly changing, okay? Nothing will ever, ever always be the same. Okay? And we have to be open to that. We have to realize that those parents that we chose to come into this world, or who brought us into this world, we chose them, of course. Again, we chose them. Whether we believe it or not, it's the truth. We chose them. The soul chooses where it wants to be, where it knows. Ay, 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 how many times I have to say this? And I say it, and I say that lovingly, I really do. But I know that many times there are people who might be listening who may be hearing this for the first time. I mentioned this in a workshop once that I was giving in a group of people, in front of people, that we chose our parents. And this particular, there was a woman in the group who had had a very difficult life. And basically, I could feel her constriction around that thought form that she actually chose her parents. We do that. The soul knows the level of experience that we need in a particular incarnation. And it does what is necessary to put us in the geographical location, the particular parents that will give us the level of experience that's needed. Okay. So forth and so on. And whatever is going on in that early childhood situation, it sets the template, does it not? It sets the template for our beliefs, about religion, cultures, food, wealth, poverty, education, social structures. And these are the things that between the beginning of our lives and say 28 to 32 years old, we are living through, and we begin to take up some thought forms of our own. Instead of just disliking a particular culture because our parents did, we may stop and say, let me find out about this. Or we might find somebody sitting beside us who we really like, who is of that culture. And it kind of blows our whole idea apart as to who people are based on the narrow-mindedness of those that brought us into the world. Okay? Number two thing. So the first one was our interpretation and evaluation of those thought forms within which we grew up as a child. The second one is our evaluation of our own experiences as a child, as an adolescent, a teenager, a young person, young woman or man, a husband, a wife, father, mother. We have had to, in this particular lifetime that we're living, we've had to especially now where we are, we've had to examine truth versus untruth. Those pillars of society that we've always wanted to achieve, supposedly, or that we were to reach for many of us, we questioned them after a period of time. I know my father, oh, God rest his soul. This man was an academic from the tip of his toenail to the top of his hair. He spoke several languages, including Hebrew, well versed, and could sit down with a rabbi and have a huge conversation, in depth. And God love him, I mean, he wanted that same drive for his children. But he didn't allow that seed. That's my view is that he didn't allow that seed to grow on its own. His voracious need for us to be something with a title in the world drove us all to not want to be that. It worked in reverse. We didn't want that. We couldn't go a month, it felt like, and I'm exaggerating, without him asking, "What do you want to be when you grow up? What do you want to be?" And I know, I think probably many of us had that. Doctor, lawyer, nurse, teacher, whatever, okay? It had to be something. So we have come through a period of time in this lifetime where we've had to examine what these so-called statutes of what is positive and good and what we should be striving for in our lifetime, we've had to examine them. Now, the youth are doing the exact same thing. And they're saying, I don't know that college is all that important. I don't know that I want to be in debt for the rest of my life. I don't know that whatever it is, okay? They're learning on their own and they're deciding what is important and what isn't important. The most important problems within our society now are those of economic issues, and of course, will always be relationships, which is why we see so much polarization right now. My way, no, my way. I'm right, you're wrong. I believe. If you don't believe as I believe, then you're out. Um, and we see it being ratcheted up today, even. And all of this quagmire that we're in, which is really simply change happening. The soul of humanity seeking to anchor itself, consciousness seeking to anchor itself within the collective of humanity. That's all it is, okay? Changes that are absolutely needed at this point in time in order for the new to take place, the new to come in. So probably one of the things we would want to do, and I suggest it's a good thing for us to do right now, is to take a moment to go inside. Let's do that together. Do a brief meditative exercise. Place your feet flat on the floor, ideally. You can cross your legs, cross your ankles together if that soothes you, that's comfortable. Usually, I should say this, if you're meditating by yourself, it's okay to cross the ankles, assuming you're sitting in a chair. When you're meditating in a group, it is better to place the feet flat on the floor so that there's no crossed energy. Everything is open between the group. Okay. So you choose. We move our focus of attention to the etheric. And through the etheric to the astral emotional vehicle. Pause for a moment. Consider your physical environment. Imagine the etheric plane that interpenetrates the physical as being composed of tiny particles of substance, resembling particles of light. That are constantly relating in intelligent activity to produce the forms of your environment and your experience. Take a few moments to visualize with the creative imagination this frequency of constant activity that interpenetrates your physical environment. Then imagine in a higher frequency than the etheric, the astral plane occupying the same time and space as both the etheric and the physical. Imagine it as being composed of tiny particles of substance, resembling particles of colored water. That are constantly assuming relationships to form fields of force around any thought and action taking place within the environment. Consider a thought common to yourself and imagine the field of astral force around it. Ask yourself where that thought came from. Recognizing that if you did not consciously formulate it yourself, that it came from your physical or subjective environment. imagine that field of force and the thought being carried by the etheric network from the inner or outer environment into contact with your aura and absorbed into it. See the thought, and particularly the field of force, taking up residence within the feeling aspect of your consciousness. Now, using your creative imagination, trace that thought back to its source. Follow that thought back via its trail of light, sound, and vibration to the place from which it came. Do this with as many thoughts as you can remember entertaining throughout an average day. And then ask yourself the following questions. Where do my thoughts come from? What kind of thoughts do I most often convey to others? Do I need to be more conscious of where my thoughts come from? Do this exercise several times in the course of the time that we have available between now and our next session to begin to understand from where your thoughts hail, where they come from. Are you one who regurgitates, which most of us do, everything that you hear on this plane? Know that there are those who, through internal focus, connection, become mouthpieces, so to speak, of the soul, higher mind, and the rain cloud of knowable things. Meditation allows us to move along certain lines of thought that can take us to something much more original than that which we have heard on this planet so far. And we all stand at the precipice, the threshold of a new way of being, thinking, living, experiencing, and feeling that can lift humanity into a new realm of consciousness. That's what we're doing here. And it's our responsibility, it's our duty to open ourselves to the new. We're not throwing the old out completely. We're holding on to that which has worked, that which is working. And we're moving and we're marrying it into the new. This is a powerful time of purposeful change. That we all signed up for, one, that we must not fear, two. Because within this shift, there is magic. There is potential for humanity to touch into something totally different than it's ever touched into before. Moving the human race into a brand new realm. That will benefit the entire planet if we can step away from greed, narcissism, we can step into love, appreciation for all of us. And if we can hold space consciously for all those where we can recognize that I used to think that way too, but now I'm someplace else. We can hold space for those who are shifting, may not know that they're shifting, but the shift is happening because it's the natural trajectory of humanity itself. I think that's enough for today. We'll continue this next time and finish this particular lesson. I think there's some other components that I'm feeling need to be brought into it as I examine and delve deeper into the material. It feels like there's some other things that need to be shown to give you those major points to begin to hold the container of this knowledge. I thank all of you for your time, your interest, your energy. I thank the Institute for Global Transformation, Marianne Miller, Ken Marks, and all of those who do the work, who hold the vision, who connect the dots, and serve humanity selflessly. Let's hold space, everyone, for our country. And the necessary shifts to come. Let's get out there and talk to people. Listen to people. Hear what's on their minds, because many are frightened beyond belief that we are in an uncharted world. You who listen to things like this, programs like this, know what's going on. We can feed and give greater sense of awareness and security, but we can be there for others as we all go through these turbulent times. And we always know this too shall pass, but we need it to pass well, which means that we all must vote. All must vote. Until the next time. Much love. Take care.